You know, React itself is actually pretty fast. If you take a React application and then you try to build that same application in Vanilla.js, you're probably going to have to build a bunch of abstractions, and honestly, the abstraction you build is unlikely to be as fast as the abstraction that we have, which is React. But sometimes there are just some things that we have to do that are just going to be slow. And so to help with some of those things, React gives us this toolbox of tools that we can reach for when React is just not optimizing us quite to the level that we need it to. Maybe you're building a React native app and there's this interaction where like every single re-render counts and you want to avoid unnecessary re-renders there. Or you are just rendering a huge list of data, or you've got some data grid that you're showing, whatever the case may be. There are some situations where React's built-in optimizations just isn't quite enough for you. And that is what React Performance is all about. Without being able to identify which tool of those tools in the tool chest is appropriate, you might actually apply the wrong one in the wrong situation. You wouldn't want to grab a hammer to screw in a screw, right? That's not going to work very well. And so lots of React Performance is just showing you how to identify what performance problems there are and which tools are best to apply to solve those performance problems. So I'm looking forward to you exploring that and learning all about that. Let's get you set up. So here's the React Performance repo. It's just React Performance. You come down here to the setup, you copy and paste that in your terminal, get yourself all set up. And inside of here, we have the exercises, but we also have the examples directory. And there are a couple of examples that will be useful to you in here to get an idea of how different files work together when we're doing lazy loading or code splitting, lazy loading of this code. And so you'll be playing around in there a little bit, but most of your time will be spent in these exercises. And actually, lots of these exercises don't require a lot of code changes. So what you'll actually be doing is spending a lot of your time in the Network tab, the Profiler, and the Performance tab. And you may or may not be very familiar with these tools, and that's totally fine. I don't expect any proficiency in these tools, but I do expect you to spend a fair amount of time playing around with these tools. And it would actually also be awesome for you to open up these same tools in the app that you're working on at work or your side project so that you can get an idea of what these tools look like in a real application. Because like I said, there's not a whole lot of code changes. Like you're just reaching for the tool that React has given you and you run off with it to make things faster. But these are the tools that you're going to be using, the Performance tab, the Profiler, and the Network tab. These are the tools that you use to identify what problem you're facing so that you know which tool to reach for. So don't be afraid, especially this Performance tab. I know it can be a little bit daunting, but like just play around with it. You're not going to break anything. So just run around, see what is going on. And the more time you spend in this tool, the more experience you're going to gain in it, and it'll seem more second nature to you after a while. So you're going to spend a lot of time in there. We're going to be learning about code splitting, the use memo hook for expensive calculations, React.memo, that one's pretty fun to avoid unnecessary re-renders, and using React Virtual to avoid rendering large lists of stuff. Because yeah, if you render like 100,000 items, it's going to be slow. I'm sorry, like, or 300,000. Yeah, you're not going to do that, especially in a mobile browser. So yeah, React Virtual is a really handy tool for us. And then we're also going to talk about optimizing the context value, performance death by 1,000 cuts. Sometimes there's not one thing that's the problem. It's just that you have tons of things that are consuming this value that need to change every time this value changes. So I'm going to show you how to optimize for that, some tools that React gives you, as well as some libraries that you can use to help with some of those problems. And then production performance monitoring, which I think you'll find is kind of interesting and can hopefully help you avoid regressions when you ship to production. So I think that this is all a lot of fun. I think that you'll have a good time with it. Again, spend a lot of time in the dev tools because that's where you're going to be able to identify which of the React tools you need to reach for your optimizations. Again, React is really fast, but sometimes there are some things you need to do with it where you need to give it a little bit of extra information and some extra help to avoid running as much code. So have a good time with this, and we'll see you on the other side of the workshop.